to work. Top of the day, beautiful people. Let's start our conversation here. We started this week with a very powerful series title and a very powerful episode. So, this week, or yesterday rather, we were talking about your memory is not the problem, your meaning is. And this is a part of the Trauma to Triumph workshop series that your story wasn't a choice, but the meaning that you give it now is. And this is episode number 2 in that series. And this is titled, You Were There, But You Didn't Know Everything. Your Highness, see, I think the earlier time might work for us. I'm here a little bit early. I thought you all were going to be dragging your feet. Look, all the regulars are here an entire hour early. So what this actually tells me is I've been an hour late this whole time. So the earlier time seems to work for us, so we're going to start going with that. Again, top of the day, beautiful people. Welcome to the Trauma to Triumph workshop series. We are continuing a very powerful conversation, and let's start this conversation here. When we talk about reframing your story, it's not suggesting that you go back and pretend like something that happened did not happen, or pretend like something that happened differently than the way that it actually happened. This is not about delusion. I'm not asking you to create a false story in your mind to replace the reality. What I'm asking you to do is to see the full picture. Because when we assign meaning to our trauma as children, we're working with incomplete data. It's like asking your child to balance the budget for the year. Asking your toddler child to balance the budget for the year. Most of the stories that we've been telling ourselves about our life were derived when we were children, operating with our limited understanding and our limited data, trying to make sense of things that we should not have been trying to wrestle with. Reframing means revisiting those events and those experiences with the understanding, the knowledge, and the eyes of the adult that you are today. Here's the thing. You weren't wrong about how you felt. You were just too young to fully understand why it was happening. You weren't wrong about how you felt about your experience. You weren't wrong about how it made you feel internally. You weren't wrong for even trying to protect yourself. You weren't wrong for coming to the conclusion that you came to. The problem is you were just too young to fully understand that it wasn't that you weren't worthy of love, but it was that your mother, your father, your caregiver, whoever it was that did not love you the way that they were supposed to, they just weren't capable. But in your child's mind, you didn't have the context to come to that conclusion, but you were able to internalize and conclude that maybe it's something wrong with me. And you've been living by that narrative for far too long. Your story wasn't the choice, but the meaning that you give it now is. I'm not asking you to pretend that the past didn't happen, but I'm telling you and instructing you and teaching you and giving you the tools so that you can reclaim the pen and rewrite what it all means to you. Because the story you live by becomes the life that you build. Brooke, ironically, this journey of teaching and pouring light, love, and wisdom into the world did, in fact, start as a youth pastor at the age of 20. Brooke said I should be a preacher for those that are watching this on another platform. The story that you live by becomes the life that you build. Here's the thing. When you assign meaning to your trauma, when you assign meaning to your experiences as a child, you're creating a narrative without the whole truth. As children, we weren't just experiencing that pain. We were trying to make sense of it at the same time. Do you understand the weight that you carried as a child? Not only are you experiencing something that is creating this awful feeling within you, but you recognize that it is different from everyone else in your life, and now you are stuck trying to make sense of it because the people that were assigned to help you to make sense of the world are the people causing you the pain. And we did what we could with what we had. We came to the conclusions that we came to with the knowledge that we had available to us. But here's the truth. The version of you that created if you had limited knowledge about a situation, would you make a lifelong decision based on that limited knowledge? If you had limited perspective about a particular circumstance, would you make a lifelong decision based on that perspective? Some of us made lifelong statements from our limited perspective. I must not be good enough. I must not be worthy of love. I must not be worthy for somebody to stick around for. It must have been me. There must have been something wrong, broken, or not right with me. That is why it happened. That narrative that has now become the narrative that you have been living by and building your life by, that narrative is based on a limited perspective and based on limited knowledge, and it is very painful. So what do? You try to make meaning. So here's some examples, right? They didn't protect me, so I must not be worthy of protecting. So because I believe that I'm not worthy of protecting, subconsciously, I always attract to myself people that seemingly they left me, so I must be unlovable. They didn't love me the way that they should have, so I must not be worthy of that love. And because I believe that I'm not worthy of that love, trying to protect myself deep down inside, I will always attract to myself people that give me the love that I believe I deserve. They were always angry, upset. So it must have been my fault. I must have been the reason that they were always angry. I must have been the reason that they were always upset. I must have been the reason. There must have been something wrong. And that meaning did not come from wisdom. It came from survival. This I try my best to explain to you all because I think is one of the smartest questions that your mind will naturally raise when you hear this type of teaching. Why would I develop a limiting belief about myself as a response to something painful? In order to stop the ongoing pain of you expecting them to love you and them not meeting that expectation, you had to conclude something. The conclusion made you stop seeking. So when you stop seeking, you cut off the ongoing pain, but you also birthed the ongoing wound. So you stop the immediate pain as a child because now I'm going to stop seeking their love. But there is this ongoing wound now that I am not lovable. Those meanings that we assign to our trauma did not come from wisdom. It came from limited knowledge, a limited perspective that was only trying to survive. I want to speak directly to someone out there that was told that you were crazy. You were told that what you were feeling and what you were experiencing was not valid, because that's how people protected themselves from accountability, by making you seem like there was something wrong with you, even in your childhood. Let's be clear about something. We're not here to gaslight the younger version of you. We're here to upgrade that perspective with truth and compassion. Because the idea of reframing isn't about pretending you. The idea of reframing is not about pretending like you misunderstood or that you just didn't understand what was happening. No, it's about realizing that your understanding may have been limited from the perspective that you saw it from, but your experiences were real. Mimi, happy healing to you. Let's continue speaking directly to you. Just because it felt like they didn't love you doesn't mean that they were capable of expressing it at the time. Imagine expecting something from somebody that they are not capable of, and then concluding that there's something wrong with you because they couldn't give it to you. One of my clients, Naila, highlighted a way that I framed this example one day that was so powerful, and it's coming back to me now. If you go to, let's say, a store, or you're walking by a store or a water stand on a very, very hot day, and you see that they have water. There is water there, at least from your perspective. There is available water, and they refuse to give you the water. Does that mean that you do not deserve water? Let's just say there is an abundance of water. Let's just say there is water as far as you can see, but they are refusing to let you have the water. Does that mean that you do not deserve water? Heal to Shift, happy healing to you. Heal to Shift says no. Jaren says absolutely not. So why is it that we conclude we know to protect ourselves, but now I'm trying to dismantle the belief in your mind? Now I'm trying to challenge the foundation. Why is it that we conclude that we are not worthy of love because we think the people that have it did not give it to us? Why is it that we conclude that we're not worthy of being protected because the people that we thought had the ability to protect us did not do it? Why is it that we conclude that we are not worthy of a thing because the people that we perceived had the ability to give it to us did not? What I'm trying to highlight to you, we do it to protect ourselves, but it's not logical. I need you to let go and let that thing dismantle and crumble. Come on, Your Highness. Now, Your Highness says because we were kids, and she is absolutely right. Now I'm going to take you all to the core of the Trauma to Triumph healing method. Why are you still operating with the belief of that child? I have an answer for you. It's because that child, until you go back and heal that wound and nurture that version of you still has influence over your unconscious thoughts and your unconscious behavior and your unconscious belief systems. That's why this healing method is so powerful, because the adult you has been carrying that pain, but it is that child within that's carrying that wound. And no matter what you do and how hard you try, if you never heal that wound, that pain will keep surfacing in different areas of your life. Heal to Shift says because of the title that they hold, that expectation of them because they are your parents. But when you use the mind that you have today and you look at Mary, John, Sally, William, whomever it is for who they are, you recognize that if I just take the title off of them and I look at William's life, why was I expecting that William was going to love me? When I look at William's life, William didn't even have the capacity or the ability to truly love himself. Why am I thinking that I'm not worthy of love because William didn't love me properly? Hey, Pops, if you hear this one day, you know we're good now. I needed a name for reference, and anyway. Sometimes we just don't have the full picture. And it requires us to go, well, listen to this carefully, and this is the part that many of us miss when we talk about inner child healing. The version of you that went through your trauma is still frozen in a state of development in that memory. And every time you visit that memory, what do you see? You see the 5-year-old you that went through the trauma. Every time you visit that memory, what do you feel? You feel like the 5-year-old you that went through that trauma. Every time you visit that memory, you see that version of you that went through that event. That's because that version of you is frozen in a state of development or frozen in that memory. And the version of you that is continuing your life today is the persona that you created after this event. Sometimes we just don't see the full picture, and it requires us that have this conscious understanding that William, Mary, Sally, whoever it was that let you down truly did not have the capacity to give you what you expected of them. So if that be the case, then you can let go of this false limiting belief that there was something wrong with you as to why you never received it in the first place. And we can go to square one. That is the power of reframing. That's why you visit those memories, and that's why you take back a new picture, because the narrative that you have been living by was based on a limited perspective, limited knowledge, limited information. You must be what you are. I'm not asking you to pretend to be something else. To Your Highness's point, the reason why many of us struggle with this concept that I have the ability to heal my inner child is because you don't recognize what you truly are inside of this vessel. Why would we reference your inner child as if there are these multiple versions of you? Well, when you're being the dad to your kids, you're not the same guy that goes and hangs with your buddy. You're technically the same guy, but the way that you show up is different. That's a different version of you. The point that I'm making about all these different versions of you that many people are afraid of, that's because that's the different personalities, personas that this mind has developed to operate in this matrix. But you are the consciousness that observes it all. You are the consciousness that is aware of it all. But many of you don't see yourself that way. You only are attached to the avatar, to this physical vessel of yours. Jessica, happy healing to you. Welcome to the conversation. Just because it felt like they didn't love you does not mean they were capable of expressing it at that time. It does not mean that they were capable of expressing it. And if they were not capable, then the conclusion of your limited belief is also null and void. The thing is, when you revisit those moments from where you are now, you give yourself permission to say, this wasn't about me, that was about them. That's the power of reframing in this tool that we're going to give you, in this tool that we teach you. When you realize that it wasn't about you, it was about them, you can put down the baggage that you've been carrying, believing that there was something wrong with you. This is what creates the emotional separation from pain and lets the truth actually sit and land. This is when you start to recognize the separation between the narrative that was projected onto you from their life experiences, and you see now you have the opportunity to write your own. Many of us have been living by the script that we were handed by those that never wrote a movie before. Matter of fact, many of us were living or have been living by the script by those that were living by the script that was handed to them. They've never taken the pen of authorship of their life. Break the cycle. Break the cycle. Because think about it. If it was their experiences that projected trauma onto you because they never healed from their wounds, what are you likely to do to those that are closest to you that you love? Should we not heal? At the core of reframing your experiences, you're not denying what happened. You're expanding your understanding of it. Does that make sense to you all? At the core of reframing, you're not pretending like it didn't happen. You're just allowing yourself to see the whole picture. Because when you were in that particular circumstance at that age, you did not have enough context or enough understanding to see the whole picture. I'm not asking you to rewrite the facts. I'm simply asking you to reevaluate the filter with which you've been looking at this whole thing. I'm asking you to reevaluate the angle that you saw the accident happen. I'm asking you to question whether or not the limiting belief that you've been living by was and is it true? What happens when we reframe a thing? You free yourself from the beliefs that were never yours to carry in the first place. I cannot tell you how many of you, the moment that you realize you literally are carrying baggage that someone else, whether it be your caregiver, whoever it was that was in charge of taking care of you, they literally handed you their baggage and you've been carrying it believing that it's about you. Open that bag and all you're gonna see in it is their trauma. You've been carrying baggage that's been making you feel like there's something wrong with you because you're so weighed down in your life. You feel so heavy all the time. Open that weight and open that bag that you've been carrying, and you will see that's someone else's false narrative and not even your truth. Every time you reframe, you give that younger version of you a new interpretation to hold on to. You update the story so that the truth, not the trauma, but the truth becomes the foundation that you start to write from. I like to say, I didn't write the first few chapters of my life, not knowingly. I was writing with the tools that were given to me. I was writing with the script that was handed to me. I was writing from the narrative that was told to me. But today, I'm the only writer in my writer's room. I'm the only writer of this movie titled The Life of Kohn. And I'm choosing to write the rest of this movie in the most prolific, profound, and beautiful expression of trauma to triumph, pain into purpose, because I can do that. And so can you. Reframing is not fantasy, it's not pretending, it's actually clarity. And it's not clarity just in your conscious mind today, but it's clarity to the version of you that has been held captive in the tower of that traumatic moment. Because that version of you still believes that you are not lovable. That's why in your adult life, you keep having this conflict with love in your love life. That version of you believes that you are not worthy or your voice is not important. That's why you keep having this conflict where you let people run all over you. Even though in your conscious mind, you know you want to say something, but something inside of you just won't. That's the conflict. Reframing is not faking it. Reframing is freedom. Let's give you all some examples so you can kind of put your fingers and put your hands on this. You might have gone through a specific experience in your childhood interpretation, or the inner child that's holding on to the wound says, my parents always worked late. They never gave me enough attention. They were never there for the things that were important to me. I must not have mattered. I must not be important. So what happens? You go throughout your adult life trying to do everything in your conscious mind to be important, while at the same time, your inner child is holding on to a belief that you are not. Let's reframe that for you. My parents may have struggled to meet my emotional needs, but they were never trying. But they were simply trying to survive. And that had nothing to do with my value. I need somebody to hold on to that and let go of that other belief that you've been holding on to. I need you to grab onto this truth, which is they were trying to survive their own trauma. That had nothing to do with my value. Somebody might have looked you in your face and said that you were a mistake. Somebody might have looked at you and said that they regretted having you. And you've carried that pain all of your life. In fact, you've used that statement as the weight of your value. If you will allow me to free you from that, that had nothing to do with you. That was someone who could not sit with themselves because of the things that they had done with their life, projecting that failure onto the closest thing to them. Isn't that so odd and ironic that when we are in pain, the people that we hurt the most are the people closest to us? That had nothing to do with your value. Here's one that many adults carry today. You'll see children experience it, and we brush it off like it's not important until it springs up in our lives in the way that it does. Maybe you were called dumb, or you got embarrassed, or you were constantly being embarrassed, or maybe you were slow to read or catch up in math, or maybe you just was a little off, or maybe you were unique, or maybe you were creative, or maybe you had that little issue or whatever it was, and they called you whatever names or they made you feel however, and you concluded as a child, I must be stupid. Do you know, oftentimes, and I'll give you all this example for you to really understand where I'm going to land this. I've been there. If you're a parent, you have. Why do we get so mad at our children when we're teaching them something? You've seen the meme or the video, the parent trying to teach the child the math problem. The child seems to be slow to get it right. The parent is upset. Can I give you all an insight into something? That is oftentimes that parent's trauma. They are afraid of what they produced. They are afraid that this is a product of their genes and their doing. And out of that fear and out of trying to push off that feeling, that internal thing, I want you to understand, like, it's a kid learning something. Why are you so upset? That's something inside of you. The parent that lashes out and verbally abuses a child, I need you to know that is their projection. They lacked self-esteem. They lacked self-love. And they projected it onto me. Their reaction does not define my intelligence or my worth. That's your reframe. And here's the thing about that statement. Where's the lie? There is none. We're removing the lie of your limiting belief and replacing it with this truthful perspective. That's the power of reframing. And the power of this challenge is we give you a safe space, a container, and the tools, knowledge, and exercises to execute the reframing. Let me tell you all this, because many people think this is about also, yeah, just forget about it. I'll never ask you to forget about anything that you've been through, because everything that you've been through can serve you. You can honor what happened to you without continuing to suffer from what it meant. That's what reframing is. If you forgot what happened to you, you'll likely find yourself going through it again. The trauma is not the fact that it happened to you. The ongoing trauma is the story that you keep telling yourself because of it. Because the truth can be, I'm wiser, stronger. I have more compassion, more empathy. I have more wisdom around the thing that I've been through. I have more value to somebody who has recently gone through that, or maybe a younger version of somebody else who is about to go through it. I am an asset because of my experiences. That could be your truth, because that is the truth. But is that your perspective? Because that's the power of reframing. I choose the perspective that I'm going to live on with. I choose the narrative that I'm going to add to these ongoing chapters of my life. We all have that power, and we make that choice on a daily basis, incident by incident, day by day. You are choosing. I wanna extend an invitation. So I only take on 3 one-on-one clients a month. And it's usually over a 30 to 90 day period with those clients. we've put together a 6-week one-on-one trauma to triumph intense focus program, because a lot of people have reached out and said, Coach, I'd love to participate, but the challenge may not be suitable for me. So we've shortened the 90-day program to 6 weeks, and we've constructed the information in the workbook so that it fits this 6-week format. For everyone that's interested in one-on-one coaching, and you've tried all the other things, you've tried all the things that you know as an adult to ease that pain, and this concept that your inner child carries the wound is one that is not only new to you, but it is resonating with you. I want you to go to happyhealing.com. That's HAPPYHEALIN. And go check out the Trauma to Triumph page and check out the free resource, 3 Steps to Begin Healing Your Inner Child. After you watch that video, I want you to fill out our application to join me on this 6-week one-on-one journey to get not only to the root of your experiences, but I will help you identify the narrative, the story, the limiting belief that you have been holding on to because of those experiences. And then we're going to give you the tools to reframe it. The link tree is in my bio if you're interested. Again, I only take on 3 clients a month. I have 2 slots remaining for June. We already filled all the slots for May. I have 2 slots remaining for June. If you're interested, for those that are serious about one-on-one coaching, we do offer a 30-minute breakthrough session where it's a private Zoom where I'll answer all of your questions and give you some more in-depth understanding of how this 6-week journey works. All right? With that said, I'll reiterate this. You don't need to forget your past. That makes you foolish. You just need to understand it differently. And that's what we do together in the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. I started this conversation with, you were there, but you didn't know everything. You were there, but you didn't know everything. We're not asking you to erase the memories. I'm teaching you to go back with your grown-up eyes, with your healed heart, with your wiser mind, and give your inner child the perspective and the truth that you never had. You were not wrong about how you felt, but you was just too young to understand why it happened. And the meaning that you assigned to it has been the limiting belief that has been hindering you. I love the place that we have come to in the healing community where we're no longer telling people that you're broken. Or at least people are not running around proclaiming that I'm broken. People would come out of a relationship and proclaim, I'm broken. And many of us came out of our childhood believing that there was something wrong with us. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You just never got the whole story. And if you are willing, you can give yourself that whole story. That's a wrap for today. Again, I appreciate you all being a part of this very powerful series. Your story wasn't your choice, but the meaning you give to it now is. Join me tomorrow where we would jump into episode number 3. I'm sure that you guys are going to find episode 3 just as powerful, as it is titled, "The Story You've Been Living Isn't the One You Chose." So we're going to do this a little bit earlier tomorrow because I see that the earlier time seems to work a little bit better. I was just shooting off the hip, trying to see what was going to happen, but you all were here. You participated. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. If you're joining us on another platform, those of you that have joined us on YouTube, thank you for being a part of this conversation. Please do like and subscribe to the page and then turn on your notification bell so that you're notified whenever we release new content. I love you all and happy healing.